Today is special. So special. And well, as you can see, we're the only ones in the bus. And that's because we're all turning 10 years old this year. And that's also why we're going places and meeting new people. Up. Good. Wait. Hi, Professor Mike Checker. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine.
Hi, Billy. How are you? Yeah, good to see you. Hello, Amos. How are you? Yeah.
What is the importance of Vision 2030?
Vision 2030 is like when you wake up in the morning and you say, today, what will I do? And you put number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. That is your plan for that day, the things which you are going to do. And you look at your timetable and you know, I start with this class and this one, and there's lunch and that, then I go home. And when I go home, I do this and I do this. That is called a plan. It's the same thing with Vision 2030. It's called a plan for the country as a whole. Where it was at that time, 2008, where it's going to be 2009, 2010. Today, we are in 2018. And every year, there is something that is being done by Kenya and Kenyans throughout our country.
What do you know about Vision 2030?
Vision 2030
Yes.
was started by former President Mwai Kibaki in the year 2008.
Very good. And what was the purpose?
Main obligation
Yes.
to eradicate poverty and to create jobs.
Wonderful. We wanted all Kenyans to have a high standard of living. Go to school according to your choice, rather than you are going somewhere because you cannot afford, or you are going to a treatment from a muganga because you cannot see a qualified medical doctor. That's the type of vision that we have for Kenya. So we set those standards, then we map our route. How do we go there?
We were brought in to brainstorm. What is our vision? What do we want to accomplish in 5 years? And how does it add to the country and the nation in another 30 years from now? And then what do we need to do between now and then to achieve that objective? People came in with energy and they set off to achieve a lot of what you see today.
When people get sick in Kenya, they go for India for a treatment, and India is very far and expensive. Why can't the government bring the machine in Kenya for people?
What you are asking, Billy, is very true, actually. I myself went to the US for treatment. The problem is that for a long time, we did not pay a lot of attention to building an effective and adequate healthcare system where all diseases and problems of health could be dealt with. When I was Minister of Medical Services, I discovered that in the whole of Kenya, we had only 5 people who are qualified to diagnose and treat cancer. Or where the diagnosis could be done, the person doing the treatment or the equipment used for the treatment was not here. And these are the things that were envisioned in Vision 2030, that a time must come when a Kenyan who needs to be treated of cancer or problems to deal with the heart or the brain should find both the equipment and the services and people qualified to do so here in this country.
Is it possible to separate politics and development so that Vision 2030 succeeds?
Politics and development are intertwined. When you have poor leaders, then you have sluggish development. When you have leaders who have the political will to go out there and actually work for the people, don't engage in things like corruption, then you find that, the country moves forward a lot quicker. One of the things that Vision 2030 was and still aims to do is insulate itself from any political interference. There's a lot more engagement, politically and otherwise, from previously marginalized communities, starting with women, both from an affirmative standpoint and otherwise. And we are the envy of many. We need focused, disciplined leadership if indeed we're going to achieve not just the Vision 2030, but the big four.
Vision 2030 was not for us. It was for children. What will be their future? So all we require is focused attention towards job creation. And this time His Excellencies come out with 4 basic criteria. Industrialization, so people will get the jobs. Agriculture, food security, means we must be able to secure food for ourselves, that we cannot go hungry. Third, health for everybody. Fourth is the housing. We want to make future of our children better than what we had and what our parents had.
Looking back, I would say Vision 2030 board has been very lucky. The biggest achievement that the board has had is the continued confidence by the leadership of this country. We have had the privilege of now serving under 2 administration, the Kibaki administration and President Uhuru's administration. And we see consistency in supporting the vision. And that is what is most important for a long-term national strategic plan, that it continues to roll over from one administration to the other, eliciting the same support. Honorable Raila, when President Kibaki and yourself came to power, the first thing that you did was to form the National Economic and Social Council. What informed that decision?
When we came to power, we found it was a very sorry state of affairs economically. The economy was growing at 0.5%. Then the idea arose that we needed to have a think tank. Through these consultations, NEST was formed. Ultimately, it was resolved that we come up with a blueprint of growth, Vision 2030. First, we were laying the foundation. If you look at this SGR, we then started the feasibility study, then we did the design, then the tender documents, and we did the tendering ourselves. Then we're happy that the government of President Uhuru Kenyatta, they came in, went on with the program and managed to complete it on time.
When your term with Honorable Kibaki, you lay a very solid foundation for takeoff. Then we see President Uhuru in his first term come and build on that infrastructure. And in his second term, he comes and narrows to the big 4. What is your take?
If you look at our manifesto in NASA, they're not very different from the ones which the president is now focusing on, because these are the rights which are enshrined in our constitution. We discussed extensively with President Uhuru Kenyatta about the development of the country, and we realized that this country has been divided. So we agreed that there was need for us to unite the people of Kenya to deal with this animal called ethnicity, so that there can be inclusion. We need to create conditions where elections do not become wars. No country can develop in a state of war. And then the other one is corruption. And we said that this can only stop when the opposition and the government come together. This is not to say that you abandon the oversight role to ensure that everything is being done in a transparent way. And we believe that the Kenyan dream will only be achieved if we bring the country together and heal the wounds that have been created over the years.
Mr. Deputy President, as the person in charge of the day-to-day oversight of Vision 2030, what would be your message to the public servants who are implementing Vision 2030?
We recognize that this is high calling. Every public servant in every public office must recognize that professionalism and integrity are 2 most important components that will take as to where Vision 2030 wants this country to be. Those who participate in corruption, or those who look the other way when corruption is going on and theft of public funds, are as guilty as those who participate in corruption. Every citizen playing their role and every public servant being accountable. That is how we will get the targets of Vision 2030.
We have an elaborate scorecard, starting with the political pillar, the issue of devolution and making it work within the first 1 year as opposed to the 3 years that had been provided by the Constitution. When you look at the social pillar, when the vision was envisaged, we had only 19 universities. We now have 59 universities. We had only 31 TVET institutes. We now have 2,000 TVET institutes in our country. But when you look at the health sector under the social pillar, in 2002, under 5 mortality rate per 1,000 life births was 115. That has reduced all the way to 49. Infant mortality rate had a high of 48. We now have 22. And in the Nabras, we can talk of road network. When we started, we had only 8,900 kilometers of paved roads. We now have 12,000 kilometers of paved roads. GDP per capita was only 27,000 shillings. Today, it starts at 167,000 shillings.
Mr. President, how has Vision 2030 shaped your leadership agenda?
When we started off on Vision 2030, we started off at a very difficult time in Kenya's history, as is well known. And with the coming of the Grand Coalition government, we agreed we must have a common vision for all our people, even those who are in the opposition. After all, we all want and wish to achieve the same objective. Virtually everything that we have done, both in my first term and now in my second term, have all been geared towards achieving the goals of Vision 2030. From the standard gauge railway, from the works that we are continuing to do at the port, from the development agenda that we have for the airports, up to what we are now focusing a lot more on now in my second term, which is health, which is food security, which is jobs for our young people, which is housing for our people, that in the Big Four, we have managed to encompass the aspirations of our people.
It appears your social agenda is very heavy on education and health. What has been your highlight moment when you observe the achievements on the social pillar?
We actually managed this year to move almost to 100% transition from Standard 8 to Form 1. And I am very keen that before I leave office, I will be able to see that magic of 100% transition from primary to secondary and ultimately to tertiary education, where we can say that every single Kenyan child now has an equal opportunity because they have been armed with the necessary skills to take on life. We said that we're going to be providing free maternal health care. We have jumped from almost 40%. Now we have almost 65% of Kenyan women giving birth with professional attendants. When you look at the power side, today we're over 7 million households connected to electricity. As we move forward, we must also tackle the demon of corruption, because by tackling the demon of corruption, we release funds that have previously been diverted to people's pockets into productive use that can ultimately help us achieve our Vision 2030. My vision is that we will be able to learn from the mistakes of the past, not live in them. And that is the same agenda that today has been escalated to what people are calling the handshake. We must overcome these divisive politics if we are to achieve our forefathers' dreams and if we are to gift future generations a better country than we found it. My message to Kenyans is, let us come together, let us leave divisive politics, let us leave corruption, let us work hard. 2030 could be with us by 2025.
Thank you, Your Excellency. We are very grateful for the moment you have given us.
Thank you, James.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
And I wish you success.
Thank you.
And keep focused.
We'll remain focused with the Vision 2030 board. We'll deliver. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Wakenya tuadhimisha miaka 10 ya Vision 2030.